Welcome to A Lunch with Biggie, a podcast about small business and creatives sharing their stories and inspiring you. My guest today started a successful business based on his personal quest for the perfect chocolate chip cookie for him. Little did he know that his half-pound creation of goodness would take him on a sweet magic ride. Please welcome Steve Lewis, the owner and purveyor of Gideon's Bakehouse. What's going on, Steve?
Hi, thank you for having me. I love that you pointed out chocolate chip cookie for him.
Well, I mean,
it was a very selfish journey at the beginning.
Hey, man, 15 years. Okay. For 15 years, it's got to be a personal journey for you to be able to get to a point where it's taking you 15 years to perfect your perfect cookie for you. And I love that you basically say that it's for you, for that reason.
Yeah, Gideon's is very much my palate. So if it's, I've learned to be a little bit flexible as the years have clicked on. Case in point, the most popular cookie we sell in the year is my least favorite cookie. But yeah, it's me. It's an extension of who I am as a human being. So it's going to be connected to my palate.
I gotcha. So before we actually start my lunch break, tell me. Well, we won't talk cookie right now. We'll talk. What's your favorite go-to sandwich?
Oh, wow. That's a big question. It's funny because I tend to, I get the what's your favorite question a lot.
Yeah.
And my answer is always dependent on my mood.
Yes.
But are you familiar with the Hoboken?
No, the Hoboken. What? I mean, obviously I'm familiar with Hoboken, New Jersey, but not the Hoboken. What's the Hoboken?
Yeah. So there's a sandwich up there it's originated from a place in Jersey that makes their own mozzarella, and it's essentially just a sandwich loaded with this just thick fresh mozzarella and roast beef that you just dip in this special sauce, and I'm here for that. I'm all about roast beef and mozzarella. For me, good French dip is going to call to me on the menu. Anything with a pesto. But yeah, if I had to get really specific, give me the Hoboken.
Nice. I love it. Now I want to have it when I go up north. I will definitely put it on my list to have.
Yeah, I don't think there's an equivalent anywhere around here. So
I would, who I think could make it though? Stasio's could probably make something like that if you did it, because they have good mozzarella and they have roast beef and all that. So they might be able to do it. Or you make it, or you have to go and make it your own, and you go to like either Hinckley's or you go to Beefy King, get all the ingredients from them, like the roast beef, get the mozzarella, and then you just kind of make it yourself, your own Frankenstein version of it in your house.
Yeah, I do that often. I love to make my own a homemade basil pesto.
Oh yeah,
which I've just been obsessed with basil pesto lately. I could talk to you 30 minutes about just basil pesto.
Well, let's not talk about basil pesto. Let's talk a little bit about cookies. I just want you to give people an idea, and I know we've already kind of alluded to it, that you basically created a cookie based on your own, trying to find your own, I guess, version of a perfect chocolate chip cookie. But tell people a little bit, or share with people a little bit an idea of how you came up with the idea, why you were on this quest for this cookie, and how it kind of led to starting Gideon's Bakehouse.
I mean, I guess it all really started when I was a teenager, and my friends now tell me that they remember when I was a preteen that I loved to bake, and I did have some little concoctions that I would make for my friends in the neighborhood. But when I hit the teenage years, I became obsessed with just trying to find that perfect chocolate chip cookie. But I was in Central Florida at the time, and the only thing in Central Florida, 20 plus years ago was Outbacks and Olive Gardens. There was no local fantastic bakery. You get what Publix has to offer, and that's about it.
Yeah.
So I had to make it myself, and I just started tinkering with zero knowledge or background. It was complete mad scientist stuff. I often joke with people that the Gideon's cookie is different because I don't know what I'm doing. I came at it from just a completely different angle, and it was just a slow process over the course of 15 years. I bake when I'm sad. It's my stress hobby.
Okay.
So whenever those moments would arise, I would bust out the eggs and chocolate and butter and get going. And I think that's why that cookie has become so personal to me, because it holds so many memories of my life.
Yeah.
Uh, I never really meant to open up a bakery. It just, the universe just pushed me in that direction.
Yeah, and I think to me that's something that is amazing to me, the fact, because I know that from what I've read and from what I knew, like, you used to, obviously you would bake a lot, so when you would bake it, you would then share it with friends, and then obviously friends then kind of were the ones that kind of almost pushed you towards the idea of when East End opened, which, if for those not familiar or not from the Orlando area, East End, and obviously correct me if I'm wrong, Steve, originally the idea is about, obviously it's supposed to, it's almost kind of like it's a food hall, but it was also had an area where it was supposed to kind of, at the time when you were there, was technically supposed to be, I guess there was a baker there, but the baker left, and then all of a sudden they were just going to do pop-ups in that bakery spot, correct?
That's
When you took
exactly right.
over.
Yeah, the original bakery there, she had retired, and her equipment was all still there. So the agreement that I think she made with the East End Market was that she would leave it there for the summer so that they can have the opportunity to just have a different pop-up every month going through the summer. And I was invited to go out there. I was actually a little hesitant about it. I wasn't sure at that stage if my very limited menu could support me, and I can keep the interest of the community, because I started off with just 5 flavors.
Yeah.
And to this day, the core of Gideon's menu is 5 flavors. I throw a lot of really fun extras all over the place because creativity demands it.
Mm-hmm.
But the core of what is Gideon's Bakehouse is that same 5 cookies that I walked in on that pop-up. And it was a surreal day. It was one of those milestone days in your life where I showed up not really knowing what to expect, a little bundle of nerves. I freeze the dough before I bake it, because I use real vanilla bean in the cookies. And the longer it can stay frozen, the stronger that vanilla bean is going to be. So I prepared what I thought was 3 weeks worth of cookie dough, but it was all gone by 1 o'clock on the first day of the pop-up. And it was literally that day that I remember thinking, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing with my life. I think I feel really grateful, because I think you can go through your entire life and never have that feeling, but constantly search for it. What is it that I'm really here to do? And I'll never forget that feeling. I remember calling up a friend and saying, this is it. Like the entirety of the world of Gideon's Bakehouse just dominoed in my brain in that afternoon on the first day of that pop-up. So amazingly thankful for the existence of the East End Market, Orlando's original food hall,
Yeah.
and all of the people that are in there, because I didn't know what I was doing. I'm not a baker by trade. I don't come from the restaurant business. So I had to rely on the assistance of those around me to help me grow. And they did they're just a bunch of amazing people. I don't have to tell you, the Central Florida food scene is not a competitive food scene. It's a very loving scene. Like, we all get really excited about each other and visit each other and eat at all the other restaurants. I love talking about my other favorite bakeries, my favorite desserts in town. We appreciate each other, and that's a beautiful thing.
No, I totally agree with that. It's so I am kind of curious. I do have some cookie questions, in the sense that what made you decide? And obviously I know it's awesome for the gram, and it is a sight to behold when you grab one of your cookies, but half a pound a cookie, like, was it just because you wanted, like, hey, I really wanted, I mean, so to describe, in case you've never had a Gideon's cookie, and if you've never heard of Gideon's, I'm pretty sure if you Google it, you will see some report from somewhere Everyone has talked about it. It's pretty much it's I laugh because my mom, who's in South was in South Florida at the time, asked me if I knew about Gideon's cookie because she read it somewhere, and I was like, yeah, I eat it all the time. And so it was just kind of made me laugh because I was like, you really don't think I would know what that is? She's like, I heard it's the best cookie in the state. I was like, oh, it's probably better than that. But what made you decide to do like half a pound, like such a large cookie?
So I do call them almost half pound cookies because the toppings will change in weight. So
Yep.
it changes the weight of the individual cookie. They are very large and they are very heavy. Uh, so funny story, and this relates back to that pop-up. I was invited to go on television before the pop-up, which just blew my mind because I didn't, who knows who I am? Like I'm a nobody. I still feel that way. And I got invited to go on TV. So I thought, oh, I really need to make sure these cookies are even bigger for television. And I made them a little bit bigger. They used to be more of a quarter pound cookie. So I really went all in for this TV appearance. And then realized afterwards that I can't now show up at the East End Market with slightly smaller cookies. So I had to push that size a little bit. I didn't want to fail expectations for anybody that was watching on TV. So I made them bigger for day one, and just it stayed that way. So there was an evolution of the cookie that happened up until the very first day that we opened.
Wow.
Yeah, even all the chocolate chips on top. It didn't used to have that many chocolate chips on top. It's just from a production standpoint, it's actually just faster to go get them on there and go.
Yeah.
Where I used to individually press each and every chocolate chip on there to get it laid out exactly the way that I wanted, which is a sacrifice I had to make to sell more than 15 cookies a day.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. And that kind of actually kind of leads me to I have many questions for you, Steve. But this kind of
Sure.
leads me to something that kind of it draws me very close to you in the sense that like this is your baby. And there are certain elements to it that I've noticed, like what you said, like having to make that, kind of like, I mean, to this day, even through the growth of where you've gone from East End to now owning a spot, having 100 in staff, making handmade cookies for Disney Springs and all of that, there's still a massive element of you that it's like still your baby. And to me, that's very amazing to see, mostly because of the fact that for many years, especially on my own brand, like a lot of people were like, well, you can't be so hands-on into it. Like you're going to have some flexibility to it in order for you to be able to grow your business. So one of the biggest things that I kind of personally want to know is how have you been able to handle that, or at least be able to relinquish some of those things or adjust where it's still you, because obviously you do all your own social, like basically the brand is still you, but you also have a lot more people involved with it. How do you relinquish some of that, and what's that balance to do that?
Yeah, at this moment we're a little over 160 people. So my commitment in growing to the international stage at Disney Springs was to not minimize the product, because that's the expectation.
Yep.
People are going to think, okay, they're going up to this big location where now we have to produce thousands of cookies a day. I would imagine that the average business owner would find a way to automate the process a little bit better. But all I did was hire a lot more hands to guarantee that the cookies being made and cakes the same way today as they were when I created that recipe in my kitchen. So nothing's changed. It's just scaled up. To maintain that quality is all about having the right people working with me. And I am so fortunate to have the most ridiculously talented leadership team that are 100% committed to doing the right thing. We talk about that all the time. Like I've said a million times that I'm a terrible capitalist. Like money isn't the prize for me, experience is. So when you come at your business from that point of view, it's really easy to focus on producing that great product every day. Like for me, I always think to myself, every single cookie and cake slice that comes out of that kitchen is someone's first Gideon's experience. And I want it to be the best because I have that weight on my shoulders of knowledge of knowing that there's people that have followed me on social media for years that have saved up their pennies to come to Central Florida. And Gideon's Bakehouse is part of their visit to Orlando. And I don't want to let that down. That bar is high, not only because of the way that people talk about us, which, I'm really happy to say that people overall seem to feel like we exceed expectation, and I want to maintain that, and I want to go even further and further and further above that as we grow. So my team is awesome. I talk often about Patrick McKinney, who is my operations manager, and what do they say, right hand man, left hand man for me, because my right hand is pretty solid, my left hand is a hot mess. And he just came into the game with so much experience. He was the manager that opened up the Boathouse, that opened up T-Rex. He's worked at Disney Springs for 16 years and understands operations on that large scale in a way that I didn't. So probably the smartest thing I ever did was bring in somebody that just carried so much more experience than that allowed me to not have to suffer through a learning curve and make the mistakes, but to be good at what we do from day one. So I not only do I not think that anything's dipped in our quality, I think we've just gotten better and better and better. And every week we talk about how can we be more consistent? How can that quality control be better controlled? It's a never-ending conversation for us, because that's the kind of stuff that keeps me up at night. Is I want to make sure that quality never dips. And when you have 160 people, it's easy for one person to not care for a second and produce even one or two things. But if something doesn't look right, it doesn't get sold. So I tell my staff all the time, I'm never upset if you make a mistake. We all make mistakes, but if you sell a mistake, there's a problem.
Yeah.
And that's something that we concentrate on a lot, because we do all care. As cheesy as it sounds to say, this business is like a family, that is what we shoot for. It's like we do really care for each other. Like I any person that gets hired at Gideon's Bakehouse sits through a 60 to 90 minute interview with me, where we just get to know each other as human beings, because I care and I want to make sure that they understand that they're an extension of me, as odd as that can be. But they understand what Gideon's means to me and where we're going, so that they can be on board with it. And I look for people that carry a good amount of emotional maturity, and I think that being the core thing that I look for in my team allows me to grow an egoless business where there's not conflict. There's just the desire to be better and create and put out really great stuff without the nonsense of human drama mixed into it.
No,
there's no drama in a Gideon's cookie.
No, just pure happiness.
Yeah, well, I joke that the secret ingredient is my tears, because I bake when I'm sad. I was going to say,
when you're sad. Yeah, I know. I'm like, there is some sadness, but I think the only sadness I have is when it's over, or or a little sadness, and maybe if I ate the whole cookie, because sometimes when that happens, you're like, oh, I ate the whole cookie. That I was gonna split it in 4 and freeze some, because that's how I try to quality I base portion control myself. I sometimes will do that, or a new favorite thing now is what we do is the cookie bites. That way we don't feel as guilty having it when we do get it. So definitely.
Yeah, cookie bites with the cold brew.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's up.
So I know you and I mentioned before we were on, and obviously I knew this as well. I definitely know that there's another aspect that I love about the whole concept. And obviously it makes sense with some of the background that you had having to do with like comic books and like the storylining and the branding and all of that. And I just kind of want you to talk a little bit about the name, because in case no one doesn't know, like I want people to kind of know a little bit or hear the story, the evolution, or how the origin story of how it became Gideon's Bake Shop. I think it's just a fun element to it. And then I also kind of want to talk about how you were able to kind of create Gideon's kind of, I call it Gideon's universe is what I call it. When you finally had the opportunity to go from 265 square feet to actually opening something at Disney Springs. Can you kind of tell a little bit about that evolution, and then kind of like how you kind of went through that universe or thought process of what you were expecting to see? Because I think people, when they walk into the spot at Disney Springs, they really do get to kind of really feel what would be like if it was Gideon's Bake Shop or Bakehouse.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the dessert is only a percentage of what the Gideon's experience is. It's a part of the reason why I don't like to ship, or I don't ship. I don't deliver. Like, you have to be at our counter to enjoy your Gideon's Bakehouse. And at Disney Springs, obviously, it's because it's an extremely immersive experience that's pure escapism to walk through those doors. At East End Market, the experience is East End Market in of itself, because that's just an amazing ecosystem of food, and I love to draw people to that. But to answer your question, I do collect old books. It's something that I've done on and off throughout my life, and it must have been almost 20 years ago that I was at an estate sale and I bought a collection of old books that were Victorian age. And when I was going through them, I found a cookbook that had a little kid's handwriting in it, because I guess he wanted to be a baker when he grew up. And there were little faded notes and doodles, and the name written at the back of the book was Gideon, and the date the book was published was 1898. So we say we're established 1898, and our bakery looks like it might have been owned by some creepy little kid, which is essentially what I am. So it works. It works out beautifully. The sensibilities are the same, and the I often say that if you were to crack open my brain, it would probably look like Gideon's at Disney Springs. But it started off, the concept and the idea of Gideon's Bakehouse, as a story. And you go to the original store, you go to the new store, and it's lined with old bookshelves filled with true Victorian books. They are real books that took me years and years to collect. And that was just the beginning. But as you mentioned, I owned a little art gallery / comic store in Winter Park. Was my first attempt at small business, called Uberbot. That was, I feel, pretty ahead of its time and gone way too soon. I love that shop. But my background in retail is as an art gallery. And that's essentially what Gideon's Bakehouse is. I don't think of it as a bakery. I think of it as an art gallery. I mean, food is art, but we also compound that with actual art and stories. And before Gideon's ever opened, I wanted to release cookies with hidden pieces of art in the packaging. I wanted to tell stories about the lore of a cookie flavor. But I was never able to do that because I never had enough time. I didn't have the team to do it. 160 people gives me a little flexibility. And we've had some great fun. Michael Reyes is the art director for Gideon's, and I met him at Uberbot where he had his first art show. And we have so much fun talking, today and over the years about different tales and the lore behind our cookies. So the first one that we ever released that was done the way that I always wanted it to do was the orange pecan chocolate chip cookie, that introduced the character Stuart Valencia, the cautionary tale of the boy that ate so many oranges that he turned into an orange boy. And I adore it. Like, to me, the future of Gideon's Bakehouse is not only creating new flavors and having great fun in the kitchen, but doubling that with more characters and more stories and putting together this universe of art that just lives in harmony with the baked goods. And that's something that I think definitely sets us apart from your average bakery, is that we're obsessed with story and telling tales.
Yeah, and I absolutely love it. Obviously, as a person who, my brand being so specific sandwich themed and having a story behind of why I came up with certain ideas, I was something that I was always drawn to, is because of the fact that how you kind of came up with the idea and how it's evolved. and I mean the like everything down from like the gargoyle that's like overlooking the bakehouse
It's my
at Disney
baby.
Springs, like that is just like I literally like I freaked out when I saw it, just because it really is amazing to see, and it's just unbelievable. I mean, it's really, I mean, I guess it's so tough because I mean it's all happened so quickly. I mean, think about it. 5 years, right? It's been like 5, 6 years since you
We just had
started.
our 5-year anniversary in October, so
Yeah,
it just passed. We're
yeah.
now past that 5-year mark.
So
Yeah, Gideon's is weird in that it feels like it's just started, and it feels like it's been happening my entire life at the same time.
yeah, what what advice would you give to someone like me or a small business that's like, you know, kind of starting out, or even heck, I'll even use me as an example. Someone like me who's been in business for a while, has a passion for it, but is, it's kind of always there's always that person that kind of, I always think of myself with or the image of the rock and the person pushing the rock. And even
Yeah.
though you're passionate about it and you're pushing, like it's one of those where like when like sometimes people feel that, like they feel that they have that frustration, they have like that love and frustration at the same time, because obviously you want success or you want to make it more than what it is, and you keep pushing and pushing, but you don't know when are you pushing too much. So like, do you have advice, or what are your thoughts on that?
The advice that I tend to give to people is not to take advice from other people. And what I really mean by that is be authentically you. So I've been given tons of advice throughout the growth of Gideon's Bakehouse, and I can tell you that I've taken very little, if not zero, advice, uh, because again, I'm coming at things from a different direction. It's authentically me. I'm not necessarily coming at things from a capitalist direction. I'm coming at it from a creative direction, which is a little bit different than the average business person's advice. But I'm also striving for authenticity and expression. I want to put out there who I am. And when I do that, if I fail, I feel confident that I've at least expressed myself. If no one connects with it, that's just the way it is. But I feel good about what I put out there. And that's first and foremost, is feeling, I don't want to say pride in what I do, but feeling connected to what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So I tell people not to follow advice in that vein. I want them, like when I go to a restaurant, I want to know that I'm getting their creativity on the plate. I don't want to eat frozen food. I want to see what they're doing. And sometimes it's amazing and sometimes it's not. And I love it either way. Like I really enjoy authentic food experiences. I just can't stand mediocrity. So that's the secondary piece of advice that I give people all the time is recognize what mediocrity is and avoid it at all costs. Every single thing, like I say this a lot at Gideon's. I'm not a fan of the best culture. I don't think I'm the best at anything. I'm not striving to be the best. There's no such thing as the best. Food is art. Art is subjective. If you love crispy cookies, you're going to hate Gideon's Bakehouse, and you're not wrong. That's just not your taste. But my promise to the guests and to the community is that I'm always going to put out there the best that I know how to do. So I ask people to do that. Is this the best that you have inside of you? Get it out there and never settle. Never go, okay, this is fine. People will like this. It'll be fine. Because then you're not being true to yourself. So, it's a little hippie psychology kind of stuff, I guess, but it's how I feel. Like Gideon's is it's even weird to be presented as a business to me. I don't think of it like that.
I appreciate it very much, because obviously that I do get quite a bit of that as well. The why don't you do this, or what are you going to do as you grow bigger, and like why are you doing handwritten notes, and why are you wrapping shirts, and that whole aspect. I get asked that a lot, but a lot of it is also because this is just how it is. So it's very inspiring to be able to hear someone who's doing it successfully and also still doing it the way he want to do it and being as hands-on with it. I did have one kind of curious question about the fact, because you have 160, and I know that you're not the one baking, but I read somewhere, and I'm just kind of curious, that no one really knows the full recipe but you, right? Like some of that stuff is like like you actually pre-mix some stuff so that no one ever really knows what the true Gideon's cookie recipe is. Is that correct?
My brother, if something ever happens to me, you all are screwed.
That's what I thought.
That's all I'm saying. Like, I have the ultimate job security. Nobody knows my recipes. Nobody knows the passwords for my social media. Protect me.
Yeah, dude. No,
Keep me safe.
I totally get it. And that's the amazing
awesome
part as well, Steve, is the fact that like anyone who sees or interacts with your social media, Gideon's Bakehouse, anyone who tweets or does or Instagram or anything like that, they're interacting with you. Which I think is super important to see, because not many people have that capability to do, or at least to do that. But they're basically getting, they're definitely getting a piece of you, or at least getting feedback from you if you're responding back to them.
It's very time consuming, and it can be a great challenge, but it is epic importance, and I adore it. Gideon's to me is the house that the community built. I'm nothing without all the support that the community gave me. And, it makes no sense that somebody as tiny as me is as big as we are out at Disney. And that would not have happened if we didn't have these, hour-long lines at East End Market with people just excited about what was happening and sharing it all over social media with their friends and family. And that's what propelled me forward. So I'm not walking away from that community. I'm still interacting with them every day. And what I love about it too, and I warn my staff about this, and I warn people when I interview, my friends and neighbors, these people that have come to Gideon's for years, know how important it is that you're awesome at connecting with people and building community when you're working at Gideon's. So if they go out to Disney Springs and they're waiting in line and they have an amazing conversation with a new employee, they're not only going to tell me about it, they're going to take a picture of that employee and say, "Ooh, this person's awesome." But they're also going to do the opposite. Yeah. If you're standing in the corner staring at your feet, or you're talking to each other and you're just not, you're having an off day and you're not being pleasant, they're going to tell me about that too. So the community has become the all-seeing eye that allows me to manage such a large crew, because they keep me in the loop. And I even know, there's people that have been so on point that I know to listen to them when they tell me how their experience is in the shop. Because more than anything in this world, I am obsessed with experience. And when I say that, I don't mean the guest experience. I mean everyone's experience. I want my staff to laugh and have a great day. I don't want stress and nonsense in my life. I want to have a good time. I want to be able to express who I am. Because I mentioned earlier, being authentic is such an important part of I think putting something new and different out there. But it's not easy. I am a quiet to myself person, and I will spend a lot of time in my own head trying to find my way and figure out what is the next proper step for me. So having that assistance from the community and just being connected so closely through social media is really helpful for me, because if it weren't for that, I would talk to people for 30 minutes a week, because I exist in the shadows. I do all my work from a dark, hidden place.
A dark, sweet place with a little bit of sadness, which is.
But my sadness is like a beautiful Carpenter's song.
Yeah. Well, your sadness is sweet, because everyone seems to be eating up your cookies. And it is amazing to see. It's amazing to see people, like, just because obviously I go to East End quite a bit. So I tend to come visit at Gideon's, or at least walking through and seeing the line and seeing people and seeing kind of like how the whole thing, and it's amazing, because even just at that location, how you have it set up where it's kind of nicely displayed, and they're able to choose, and then they're like kind of, and the whole the whole aspect of it, I mean, is really kind of amazing. What you guys have been able to do, in that small space, and then also the fact of what you've been able to create now, in a larger space to obviously be able to do that. I also love the fact that your cookies are frozen, or that you freeze your cookies. So because of the fact that, I mean, and because of you, I actually, a lot of times I tell people when they do buy baked stuff, I'm like, hey, like, you can freeze the cookies. Like, cookies can be frozen, because sometimes people are always amazed by that. So it's amazing to kind of being able to see that, see all of those things, kind of be developed, and just kind of what you've been able to create. It's really been, like, I think, kind of, to me, it's very inspiring, because obviously I've been in business 8 years. So I've seen you guys have gone from where you go to where you've gone. And
I remember your first visit.
I do. And I remember the fact that you and
Yeah.
I got to hang out and talk, and it was just
Yeah.
like, I literally
I
was
love your
hooked.
shirt.
Yeah.
It was the first time I saw your brand, and I'm a branding junkie. So
Yeah.
I just thought it was so much fun.
Yeah.
I remember that. I remember a lot of those first connections with
Yeah.
people in the community, and they're really, really special.
That
I will say, you talk about freezing the cookies, and yes, you can freeze those cookies. My preference is that you don't, is that you still eat them.
Well, usually,
I freeze the dough before I bake it, but once it's baked, freezing is the next best option. But the best option is just to eat those suckers. Just
and
go
you
crazy.
recommend 3 days. You recommend up to 3 days, right? Once you have them, to do that.
Right, in an airtight container.
Yes,
Is
airtight
the best way to do
container.
it.
Yep, I've done my research. I've also eaten quite a few of them. If you were to ever go into my social media, you would pretty much see that I've written numerous times that if I were to have my last meal, and my last meal, if on my deathbed, would be for dessert, would be 2 of your cookies, some Kelly's homemade ice cream as an ice cream cookie sandwich. And I think I would die very happy. A happy
I will
death.
personally hand it to you, my friend, when that day comes. I'm going to come out of the shadows and give you your cookies.
I absolutely love that, man. I appreciate it. Tell folks, if you could do me a favor, just tell folks how they can follow you, where they can come visit and have your cookies, just kind of any information you want to provide them about where they can follow, and I think just kind of experience the Gideon's Bakehouse.
Sure. I mean, Instagram is the best place to be, because that's where I'm jacked into the most. It's really hard for me to be on all social media all the time. And Instagram is my preference. So I do my best to get to everybody. But I will admit that these days I will get a few hundred messages, tags, all those things a day. And some things do disappear. So if you have an important question, you could always email through the website, and that actually goes directly to me as well. But Instagram's where you learn everything. Like I like to think that part of my job these days is setting expectations, because Gideon's is a little bit of a different experience, especially out at Disney Springs. I think right now it's the 2-hour virtual queue to get inside. So I really appreciate it when people seek out our social media and learn a little bit about our operations, especially when it comes to visiting Disney Springs. It's a great place to visit. We have the great fortune of being extremely popular on property. So on a weekend, the average wait to get in can be 5 hours. On a weekday, it could be 2 or 3. And that's a virtual wait. So you can go and watch a movie, have dinner, and then you'll get a text that says it's time to pop in our little short return line to get inside. So it's not hard, but it can be a little jarring if you don't know what to expect. And we tell you what to expect on our social media and at gideonsbakehouse.com as well.
One last thing before I wrap up. So obviously we've talked about those moments, the aha moments, like day one of Gideon's, when you sold out of all your cookies at 1:00, when you were at East End. Can you just explain to me, because I actually get chills thinking about what you probably went through in your mind. I'm actually it's kind of weird. I'm actually getting emotional for you. What was that sight when you saw the massive lines? Because I saw it on social and I was like, I love Steve, but I'm not standing in line for that long for the cookie to be able to walk in as much as I want to. Because I think at one point you guys had 8-hour waits. Like, what went through your mind? Obviously, besides the fact of like, holy crap, but like, what went through your mind when you saw all these people waiting to have something that you created?
It's usually not a positive reaction. It typically falls more in the realm of panic. No, in all honesty, it really does force me and my team to think, okay, how do we make the best out of this experience for everybody? So it's hard to find time to sit and enjoy the fruits of the labor. I don't think I've done it yet. There's been little pockets of surreal moments. Like, I don't know if you saw my social media, but I was given an honorary WWE championship
Yes,
title this week,
yes.
which is a kid that grew up watching wrestling. That was just insane to me, and I those are one of those moments where the child in you is just screaming that this is happening. uh it's hard for me to find those moments because I'm typically always in a work mode. um it comes in flashes. Like, is this just I'm sure this happens to other people. I don't exist in other people's bodies, but where you have those just pockets of just pure happiness,
Hmm.
but they're super fleeting.
Yeah.
That happens to me a lot. Like, I'll sit in the corner inside of the Disney Springs location and just watch the operation happening, and the conversations, and watch everyone take out their iPhone and do the pano of the inside of the space. And it's satisfying. It feels great, but it also pushes that part of my brain that asks what's next. How do we make this even better?
Yeah.
I often say that I suffer from perfectionism because it's not a lofty thing.
Hmm.
It's a terrible thing where you never feel like you're good enough at anything that you do. So you're constantly trying to be better and better and better. I will admit that Gideon's at Disney Springs is the first thing. The decor of that space, the inside of that space, the feel of that space, with as little money as I have, uh, it came out better in reality than it was in my head, and that's never ever happened before. So that in of itself makes that space extremely special to me. The original Gideon's, I opened up the Easton Market Gideon's with $800 in the bank.
I know. Crazy.
So and I think that is a really cool looking
It
space
is.
for having no money, like
It
nothing
fits
at
the
all.
theme. I mean, it fits the theme. Obviously, we got, like, we'll just say the East End is kind of almost like your Cookie Bites version of what, when you walk into your Gideon's in Disney Springs, is your full cookie. In
Yeah,
many ways.
it's the full experience
Yeah.
because it one has all the lessons learned of East End Market,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to how to store enough product to get you through the day. But also, it's large enough for us to carry some extra cakes. I'm super proud of the cold brew that we do there. I've been chasing the perfect cold brew my whole life, and I'm happy to say, and I don't mean this in a pompous way, but my favorite cold brew is my own. I can't stop drinking it. I can't stop drinking it, and we do that, with our friends at Lineage. We use their bean. They help us put it all together. They're obsessively skilled at what they do, and I love that we're able to have pieces of our local community inside of that location. Like, the candles that we do are made from a company called Wash and Wick,
Yep.
which is really just a husband and a wife making them in their
Same
garage.
thing with your
And we move,
mugs.
yeah, hundreds of those. Yeah.
Yeah.
Amber, who
Yeah.
makes the mugs that are gone in 15 seconds.
Yep.
Cassandra Milena, who is one of my best friends, along with Mike, that helped me theme out the inside of Disney Springs. Like, we had so much fun going into that store over a weekend and creating all that. She just released a line of Gideon's plates that sold out
Saw
in 2
those.
seconds
Yeah.
online, and she's going to be doing some internet only mugs that are different than the ones that we have in the store, a little bit more uniformed in design, so we can,
Yep.
it's hard to sell a one of a kind mug online
Yep.
because I'm creating 50 different entries and I don't have time for that.
Exactly.
So it's great to be able to work with all these talented local people. And again, coming from an art gallery background, my favorite thing about Uberbot was being able to give a venue for local artists that never took that step to be in an art show, to put their work out there and to create their career in a sense
Yeah.
was the most satisfying thing for me, to give them that push. And I love being able to use Gideon's in the exact same way of using small companies to help us create the merchandise. Because I don't have to tell you, I'm a branding junkie. I love merchandise. I love putting merchandise out there, and because I love seeing it. I love that every time a new sticker or a pin comes in, I have to rush to the production kitchen to see it. Like, I want to see everything right away with just giddiness in my
Yeah.
heart, because it's so much fun to have that creative outlet. And being at Disney Springs allows me to do that. We actually don't move a lot of merch at East End Market. We move through a ridiculous amount at Disney Springs, and I'm super grateful for it.
Steve, thank you so much for taking the time to come chat with me today during my lunch break. It means the world. I absolutely super excited for all your success and continued success. It's just super amazing. So thank you very much. I really appreciate that.
Thank you. You're one of the people that helped push us up there, and I really appreciate
Well,
you.
for sure, man. Anytime, you know me, anytime you need me to, I have no problem spreading. By the way, I don't know if you saw, since you saw quite a bit of DMs, you may have, but one of the first things I saw when I saw that you got the wrestling belt, was, all I thought to myself was, oh my God, please, Steve, make a giant ass Gideon's cookie. And so it has the belt, the strap over itself, like a wrestler. I was like, or around its waist. I was like, make a cookie big enough, so, or at least a stack of cookies big enough so it looks like it's wrapping around its waist. I was like, that was the first thing I thought. I was like, oh my God, imagine that cookie. Was what I thought of. So I really do appreciate it. Well, that's our show for today. Thank you so much for Steve Lewis of Gideon's Bakehouse for being on and having lunch with me. Definitely make sure to check them out. If you're in East End, and if you're in Orlando, make it a point. If you're at Disney, you have no excuse not to go to Disney Springs. If you're in Orlando, definitely go to East End, and definitely try out Gideon's cookies. You can only get up to 6, so be very smart on what you choose. That's why I always tell you, get good cookie bites as well, so you can keep eating. Definitely make sure to check them out online. If you've enjoyed the show, make sure to subscribe, tell your friends, spread it like PB&J. And you can always come and support my brand as well, Deli Fresh Threads, and shop, and obviously tell your friends there and post pictures. But thank you. Until next time, keep eating sandwiches and follow your passion.